Hey guys, this is Neon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're back with another episode of CLOWNFISH TV, and we're going to talk about Star Wars, which we haven't talked about too much because, frankly, we're both bored of it.
I'm just blocking it out.
It's just kind of blocking it. I did catch Resistance, part of Resistance, last night on.
It was pretty bad.
It's boring. It's so boring.
It wasn't good.
It was boring. Like, I'm not going to do a review of it because I have no desire to sit through an entire episode of it.
I mean, I can see
very boring.
Oh, it's for kids, but I think even kids would have been bored.
Yeah, it was all.
I have
like,
kids. I teach kids.
Fetch quests and talking and it was boring. What I saw of it, and I watched about half an hour, it was just very boring.
Let's make a kids show. Make it more talky. You know
yeah, right. Make it more talky. Okay, so speaking of talking, speaking of Star Wars, we're going to talk about someone who talked too much and got himself shit canned from Star Wars books. That is author Chuck Wendig, who has written, let's see, novelizations of, I believe, The Last Jedi. He's written a bunch of Star Wars comics. It was just announced last week at New York Comic Con that he was going to be working on a new series, a new Darth Vader series, and now he is not. He's been terminated for basically having very, very strong, this is putting it nicely, having strong political opinions on Twitter. Yeah. And it wasn't just like, hey guys, vote for my guy next month. It was like, it was pretty bad.
You had to show me because I was like, okay, well, you know, I can understand if people being mean to you, you're gonna fight back. Okay, I wasn't expecting what you know the tweets actually were, and I was like, oh my gosh,
yeah. Geeky actually did not want to do a video on this. I'm like, oh my god, Chuck Wendig. I am familiar with his tweets. I'm actually not familiar with his work. I can honestly say I've never read anything by
I mean, you can't
Chuck.
Blame The Last Jedi on him, though. I mean, he did novelization,
no, he did the novelization,
but he only could work with what he was given, which wasn't great.
But Chuck is one of these guys. He's a handful of Lucasfilm, Marvel folks that are out there basically, I don't know, attacking the fans. I think that's not too harsh of a term.
The way he spun it, he was like, well, I was kind of just defending myself. Actually, most of his argument was deflection of, you know, I don't have it as bad as this person, I don't have it as bad as that person, like trying to stir up more crap. But I just thought, okay, if someone's attacking me, I have to bite my tongue or I'd fight back too, somewhat. But when I saw the tweets, I was like, oh my god. Yeah,
so I'm going to read, first now, mainstream media. The mainstream media is actually picking up on this. This is not a, comic book media site. This is actually coming from Entertainment Weekly. Star Wars author Chuck Wendig says Marvel Comics fired him over political tweets. Chuck Wendig, author of the best-selling Star Wars Aftermath novels, says Marvel Comics has fired him from their Shadow of Vader series over his political outspokenness. The writer posted to Twitter on Friday to say he was removed from the 5-volume series with 2 issues unfinished, and yet another as yet unannounced project was canceled. This is happening more and more often at Marvel, isn't it? And here's Chuck Wendig's post. Then we announced Shadow of Vader just last weekend, and people were excited, and I thought everything was good. I was not made aware of any issues. My online self has always been my online self. So, except, no, today I got the call. I'm fired because of the negativity and vulgarity that my tweets bring. Seriously, that's what Mark, the editor, said. It was too much politics, too much vulgarity, too much negativity on my part.
And so what do these people do? They run to Twitter to whine about it, and then they meant the name of like the editor and everything to try to make sure.
To try to get them.
Just so you know, these are the people you should go target because I got in trouble.
Right. So let me show you some of Chuck's tweets, the ones that might have actually gotten him.
Yeah, I was feeling bad for him until you showed me those, and I was like, oh my word.
So some of Chuck's tweets. Now this is coming from Bounding in the Comics. He is very political. He's very outspoken. Chuck Wendig says there will be. This is from actually the beginning of the month. These are probably the tweets that got him
because they were announcing
fired.
books and stuff.
Yeah, they announced
last week.
Yeah, they were just announced a new Vader series, and we had this. So there will be renewed calls for civility. Ignore them.
Yeah, we don't want that. Why would we want to be civil and, talk it out?
They ask for civility as a way for you to grant them complicity in what they do. Who are they?
Yes, and I'm sorry, but you asked for civility. That doesn't even, no.
Civility is for normalcy. But when things are normal and working as intended, civility is part of maintaining the balance. But when that balance is gone, civility does not help return it, but rather destabilize it further because your civility gives them cover for evil.
But my question
this guy
is,
thinks he's a
why
rebel.
does
he thinks he's part of the
I
rebel
don't
alliance.
understand. Like, you know, maintaining balance. You have to return to maintaining balance. Balance is gone, according to him. I mean, I do think that everything's a mess. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, well, it gets.
I mean,
it gets,
I understand what he's saying, but I also think that's not. I don't agree with. What
he's
saying.
allowed to. He is allowed to have those opinions, but when you are representing a company like Marvel, Lucasfilm,
and
Disney,
they have customers on both sides.
They have customers on both sides, and these aren't the worst. These are just sort of.
No, that just blows my mind because you know what? It doesn't effing matter people voted for since this has been recent that it's this ridiculous
litmus test
bullshit of, well, who did you vote for? If you didn't vote for the right person, you're no good, Nick, as you would say.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to buy my books. I don't have to be nice to you. And like, there's two rules they always said: don't talk religion and don't talk politics if you're in business where people can see it. And clearly, this just bit him in the butt.
Well, this is that last weekend. Now he is the one who did the infamous Chuck Wendig TED Talk, where he goes on and on and on and on. Political manifestos on Twitter. Anyway, he says it's not the same as calling for violence, so there was a disclaimer. Is suggesting that you should not be shamed for using vigorous, vulgar language, or for standing up in disobedience, or for demanding acknowledgement and action whenever you must. Actually, that's pretty tame for Chuck Wendig.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree you should stand up for things sometimes. I don't disagree with that statement.
Yeah. But here,
yeah,
not
this is
so
what
long ago,
I saw, and I was like, whoa.
This is probably...
I didn't even vote for Trump.
Yeah, F Trump. But he's just the ugly fake gold mask they put on this thing. F all the GOP. F that blubbering, bristling frat boy judge. F McConnell, Ryan, Grassley, Collins, every last one of them. F them for how they've shamed victims and helped dismantle democracy. Talks about bullies. And I think he's going... okay, so... he's basically talking about Trump and Trump supporters, and he got a little carried away here. They can eat shit, all of them. They can eat a boot covered in shit.
This is what's going on. It's because they can say whatever the heck they want, and there's no repercussions.
Right. Winter is coming, you callous F-necks, you prolapsed assholes, you grotesque monsters, you racists and rapists and wretched abusers.
Oh, so if you voted for Trump,
vengeful,
you know
petty
you're
horrors.
a rapist. Just so you know that.
Side note, some will tell you to be civil because our rage and scorn will fuel the other side, but F that double standard. And that's
no,
probably...
dude, I'm seeing a lot of double standards. And I'm going to tell you, it's not only on one side. That's all I'm saying. I'm seeing a crap ton of double standards.
And now this is coming from, I think, John Trent wrote this. Yeah,
and like I said, and I'm not even Republican. I don't like Trump.
Yeah, this is... Okay, he would then devolve into what I can only describe, this is John Trent, the author, as lunacy, as he starts ranting about eating a baby and then claiming Trump supporters are eating a baby.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I didn't see this part.
Wait, what? Well, if you hadn't said those sassy words and demonstrated anger at our whittled down democracy, I, for a second, might have been convinced not to eat this baby.
What?
Your incivility made me eat this baby.
What?
Spoiler warning, they were always going to eat that baby. P.S. It's okay if you're not okay.
I don't understand what that even... What? What's the baby?
I don't even know.
If it was about baby back ribs, yes, I probably would eat the baby back ribs.
Yeah, that's a look of shock.
Yeah, that's my face.
It made it to... I mean, it's making it to all the news outlets. KRCR News, ABC Channel 7, local news is picking up on this. Washington.
Oh my God.
They're talking about this. Now here's his blog post on it. He actually took his kind of ranty tweets and whittled it down to a blog post on terribleminds.com, in which I'm fired from Marvel.
Yeah, that makes me mad because that's how they start chapters in Houseman and Castle. Don't taint Houseman and Castle.
Hello, I was fired from Marvel from 2 Star Wars projects. The detail from the tweets I tweeted. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom.
Blah, blah, blah. Everybody's heard this.
Okay, now this is coming from Chuck Wendig. My understanding of this call was that this was a Marvel decision, not a Lucasfilm decision, but I can't really confirm that. I'll tell you, I have theories as to what happened. The editor said he had made the call. He seemed genuinely upset at my tweets and profanity, so maybe that's accurate. And again, that's his right to do so. If they honestly feel that my presence will damage the book, I don't want that. I want the book to shine. I want the artists to do their amazing thing. Artists like that are gods in my mind.
Okay,
so I'm happy not to distract from their literal magic. At least he's,
he's not going to try
saying,
to
please don't fire
him.
the artists.
Yeah.
It does set a troubling precedent, one we've seen already with James Gunn, Jessica White, and so on. Chelsea Kane. and we'll talk about her, of folks fired because they riled up the wasp nest of Asterix Gate.
Oh,
okay, so here it comes. This is where they blame Comics Gate, and I'll tell you what I actually think happened. And I don't think it has much to do with, well, I think it does on some level, but not quite. And it seems odd to be mad that I'm mad about politics when, well, look around, climate change, kids in cages, sexual harassers at the topmost tiers of power, and so on. Yeah, the world sucks. People want to read comic books, Chuck, to get away from it. A call for civility, as in the PO-GOP candidate threatens Tom Wolfe with a golf cleat stomping. I don't know, man. I know it hands Comics Gate. Yep, here we go. A big win. It will embolden them.
Well, that was Asterix Gate before.
It was Asterix Gate. Now we're going to name it. It will embolden them, but they won. I'm out of Marvel, I guess for now, at least out of any kind of Star Wars. Do your victory lap, I guess. Just please leave me out of it. All that being said, a lot of wonderful people still work inside those institutions and story worlds, and I hope you'll continue to support them. And stories are telling. To conclude, this is really quite chilling. And it breaks my heart.
Wait, so you say shitty, bad, terrible things, and you get punished for it, and you're like, "This is chilling. How dare I? I thought I was above it. I work for Marvel. I'm above being punished."
I am very sad and worried for the country I live in, and the world, and for creative people all around. Courage to all you. Does that include the F-necks, the fuck-necks, or whatever he called people?
Yeah.
I have a dire fear this is going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. P.S. Vote in November like your life depends on it, because it just might. So because, yeah, if there were fewer Republicans in office, you wouldn't have gotten fired for saying, like, ridiculous
But I mean, okay,
things.
so even if it went his way, let's say the election went his way and he got what he wanted.
Right.
You know, people would have still been upset. He would have said something else, crappy about something else, because clearly this is the person that he is. And he says, I am who I am on there. So he admits that's the person he is.
Right, that is,
so
yeah.
you can blame it on this, but if something else would have made him mad, he would have done the exact same thing to some other group. So I'm like, he admits that's who he is.
Now we're gonna talk about Chelsea Kane. In Entertainment Weekly, Chelsea Kane, we did talk about her a little bit before in a live stream. She's the one who's doing, I believe it's Man-Eaters now for Image, but she was doing Vision for...
Man-Eaters, I'm sorry.
Yeah, which is just a freaking...
that's a mess.
We haven't even... Yeah, it is literally a mess. We haven't gone there with it, but she was doing the Vision project for Marvel. They pulled the plug beforehand. They did not say why they pulled the plug on it. I think it's just it wasn't aligning with their goals or whatever. But then she told Marvel to basically go...
Yes, so because of course, you know, when you get told you're fired, your first thing is to go to Twitter to make sure everybody knows so that they can go harass. You know, the things that you accuse, they keep accusing the whatever Comicsgate or anti-Star Wars or whatever of doing. They're turning around and doing it themselves.
Yeah, they're basically they're turning the blaster on themselves and shooting themselves. They're like the worst stormtroopers ever.
No, but I'm saying they get mad about people like when they don't like something running and trying to cause trouble.
And trying to cause trouble.
And they do the exact same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. His firing, okay, this is Entertainment Weekly, is the second removal of an outspoken freelance writer by Marvel Comics. Yeah, we're talking like within a month. Chelsea Kane, whose female-friendly first Marvel superhero comic Mockingbird inspired a social media harassment campaign against her after it was canceled, learned last month that the new series by The Vision she was writing with her husband was being canceled by Marvel Comics before it was even released. We did talk a little bit about that. You know, they're saying, you know, maybe politics played a factor. I don't know if that was the case. I personally am just like, I'm wondering if Marvel just wanted to go in a different direction. Mm-hmm. You know, this happens all the time. It happens all the time. We have people trying to argue with us, but in publishing, it happens all the time. It might have been a case of like, well, we're going to do XYZ with the Vision and the MCU, so don't do that.
I mean, even want to do something else. Mainstream publishing, you can get a book deal for like 4 or 5 books, and then you don't sell very well on your first 2, and they'll have to buy out your contract for the other 5, do it, and then you just don't get those books. This happens all the time.
Yeah, because it's actually sometimes cheaper for them to buy out your contract than to spend all the money printing and marketing and distributing your books that they know aren't going to sell that well, or the market's changed, or maybe something similar's come out. I mean, there are a lot of
movies, MCU they want to use or something. There's all kinds of reasons, especially something that has so many branches like this does.
Yeah, so I'm gonna postulate a theory here. Now, I know Chuck Wendig thinks that Comicsgate in particular got him fired. Well, first I want to show you this too.
Well, I'm sure, you know, it didn't help. But...
Yeah, well, okay, so after Chuck Wendig got fired, Making Star Wars calls for boycott. Making Star Wars is I believe a YouTube channel.
Oh, he's allowed to have a boycott.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chuck was fired over his tweets. Same Mark Paniccia. I think it's Paniccia. I don't know. I don't know him. He is an editor that apparently thinks Ethan Van Sciver is A-OK since he follows him.
Because you're not allowed to follow anybody, just even if you're trying because you want to see what's going on. I mean, you know, heaven forbid.
Yeah, so this is a Marvel editor.
So I gotta make sure I shame him publicly so he knows that I know that you follow somebody. So you're like, they're basically going to people's follower list and stalking them on who they're
This is what's going on.
Yes, but it's all you guys. There's nothing wrong with these people. They're completely rational and normal.
These people are, they're normal. No, they're not. They're abnormal. They're just abnormal people on Twitter, which encourages. Twitter in 2018 encourages abnormality. It's basically a very, very small subsection of like the real world.
Any other part of your life, you had somebody who was so obsessed with everything you did that they went and looked at your friends list to make sure you didn't follow the wrong kind of people they didn't like to control everything you did. That would be called an abusive relationship. And that would be, you know,
let me check your phone history. Let me check your, you know, who were you going out with?
Who are you talking to? You're not talking to me. Who are you talking to? You're not talking to me.
Exactly.
That's an abusive relationship. That's what that is.
Yeah. So, okay. My hot take on this is Disney's fiscal year just ended at the end of September. We are Disney watchers. Disney, they assess their priorities at the end of the fiscal year. They're taking a look at Marvel Comics and Lucasfilm and probably going, what the hell?
They're going, we have a bunch of losses. What happened?
What the hell happened? And
there's a lot of people saying that people are saying nasty things they shouldn't say on Twitter. Well, let's take a look at that. Oh, you know.
Yeah, and especially with Marvel Entertainment. Now, remember, Marvel Entertainment is run by Ike Perlmutter. Ike Perlmutter is really good friends with Donald Trump. Ike Perlmutter probably wasn't aware that Marvel freelancers were doing and saying.
So they should eat boots full of shit or whatever.
Right, right. And I think if you know, Ike Perlmutter got a whiff of that, his freelancers were out there spewing vulgarity about Republicans, he probably wouldn't be very happy.
Well, I think Disney to take a look at Lucasfilms also because they're losing all kinds of money, and they keep trying to spin it's because of these boycotts, but they're calling for another boycott. But it's okay, their boycott's okay because they're on the side of good, so their boycott is all right. But the other boycott was bullshit, and they're just a bunch of incels living in their mom's basement. They just don't like strong female characters. They're just white guys who are misogynistic pigs who are every phobe ever imagined. But he's allowed to start a Star Wars boycott because he can.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like I'm really torn because like I don't like calling for people's jobs because they have opinions. But Marvel Comics is part of Disney. Lucasfilm is part of Disney. We've said on multiple occasions that it was shocking that the Walt Disney Company would allow this kind of behavior, whether or not they are freelancers. It doesn't matter if you're a contractor for the Walt Disney Company, you're still held to the same standards, or you're supposed to be held to the same standards that full-time employees are when representing the company. And Marvel and Lucasfilm representatives are just talking trash on Twitter. They're allowed to have those opinions, absolutely, but they do take it too far. Yeah. And
because at first I was like, if he was just defending himself, because I didn't really know what the tweets were, and I'm like, if he's just defending himself because people were like harassing him, which I can see. He ripped the novelization for The Last Jedi. I'm pretty sure he got crap. I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah. So I can kind of understand that, and I was like, okay, well, and then you showed me the tweets, and I'm like, oh, okay, well now I can.
Yeah, we actually were not going to do a video on this. Geeky's like, I don't want to just because normally we don't. I mean, to be honest, we don't usually go after, again, working in comics, I don't want to go after individual creators. This, though, the reason we're doing this video is just basically to show, once again, that, talking smack in public, attacking fans, attacking people because of their political beliefs or whatever in public could potentially cost you your job. That's not the man trying to keep you down. That's just like, this is like any job ever. Like you work at freaking Walmart, and if somebody comes through the door and they might be a Republican and you start insulting them, you're not going to be working.
Yeah, you start making fun of their hat, their MAGA hat. You're right. Be in trouble.
Oh yeah, you're not going to be working. But it doesn't matter how you feel about that personally. You're not going to be working for Walmart. And these people seem to forget, I think, because they're working in these entertainment industry, which is very homogenous. You have a lot of
blocking people too, so it's echo chamber
kinds of people.
And you think, I'm just going to rise. Oh, these people, I get likes every time I say something about, anti-Trump. I'm going to get the most likes ever. And yeah,
and that's it. And they're dealing in the currency that these people are dealing in, or like the dopamine hits they're getting from upvotes and likes and reblogs, not realizing that is not indicative of the real world. Which brings us to,
which is what I want to talk about. This is what I actually want to talk about.
Brings us to
see this yet.
So this article, written by The Atlantic, we actually had people on our Discord bring this to our attention a couple days ago. We just have not had time to record videos, but I do want to talk about it. Now, this is kind of a big deal. This is coming from The Atlantic, with mainstream publication. It's also a very left-leaning publication, and they're basically coming out and saying that people who are far left or far right constitute the minority. The fringies make up the minority of people in America. Most people are in the middle.
Most people are like us, the middle.
And they're
we
tired
keep getting in trouble
of
for being in. But then most people are in the middle. They're either they're moderate to the right or moderate leaning left. And yeah, they're not these fringe nut jobs on either side. And they're the ones that, if you're not far enough left, then you're all right. If you're not far enough right, then you're an SJW snowflake.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But what's going on here, and this is coming from, and I do apologize if you're listening, and I seriously doubt you'll ever find this video, but Yasha Monk, I think is his name. He's a lecturer on government at Harvard, right? So he's not just some rando from the internet, but it's interesting because he's saying that, after the study, Americans dislike PC culture. This happened before. This happened in the early 90s. There was this wave of PC political correctness. And
it was never as bad as this.
No, it was never as bad as this, but didn't last very long back then either. People just got really
It was not like
tired
this.
of it.
I've never seen like this.
So this is coming from, I believe it's Yasha Monk on The Atlantic. I'll put a link in the description. On social media, the country seems to divide into two neat camps. Call them the woke and the resentful.
So now they're even calling it woke.
Yeah, I wonder if I could even use that term, because I'm like, is that
yeah, am I allowed to use that?
Well, they're using it. The Harvard dude is using it, so I think it's okay to use it. Team resentment is manned, pun very intended, by people who are predominantly old and almost exclusively white. Team woke is young, likely to be female, and predominantly black, brown, or Asian, though white allies do their beautiful part.
I'm going to disagree with this, and I'll tell you why. You know what's really funny?
Well, he's disagreeing with it too. Here, let me go on here.
Okay.
These teams are roughly equal in number, and they okay, this is what it looks like on the internet.
This is what he's saying. Okay.
He's basically saying on social media, this is what, I
always laugh.
It's not true.
Because I was going to say, because you always hear these things about, it's pumpkin spice time, so all the white girls, you hear these characters are white girls. I'm sorry, but every time I see one of these new shows coming out that are supposed to be ultra, progressive, my first thought is, and the all-white female, straight lesbian or trans writer's room, because that's who it's going to be.
Right. So,
go ahead.
No, but he's saying this is, if you go by social media, this is what it looks like. It looks like you have a bunch of woke warriors and then a bunch of, middle-aged white dudes fighting.
I got you. Okay, I got you.
Okay, so these teams are roughly equal number, right? It's a 50-50 split, and they disagree most vehemently as well as most routinely about the catch-all known as political correctness. Reality is nothing like this.
I know, right?
Can I make this super freaking big? Reality is nothing like this.
Amen. Can I get an amen?
Yes, because really, these kinds of people, the Chuck Wendigs of the world, you do not run into them on the street.
You might.
Well, if you do, you walk the other way.
They're probably trying to hit you, though.
You walk the other way.
If you have a MAGA hat, you might want to turn around.
I have come across very few of these people, and we travel a lot. We travel a lot. We travel all over the freaking country all the time.
Most people are good people.
Most people are good people, and most people are
people.
tired. And this is what this article talks about. Thank God somebody who's well respected, well educated, has said it. Okay, reality is nothing like this. As scholars Stephen Hawking, Daniel Yudkin, Miriam Juan Torres, and Tim Dixon argue in a report published. So there's multiple people involved.
Right, it's not just one person.
It's not just one person in their opinion on Star Wars. And there are multiple academics involved in an academic study called Hidden Tribes, a study of America's polarized landscape. Most Americans don't fit into either of these camps.
No, they don't.
They also share more common ground than the daily fights on social media might suggest, including a general aversion to PC culture. This is what the Chuck Wendigs and the Chelsea Canes, etc., etc., etc. of the world do not understand, is the people like Twitter is not reality.
No.
Okay, and they're confused when YouTubers amass these large followings, because YouTube attracts a more general audience of relatively normal people for the most part. You know, whereas Twitter has become so far up its own ass that normal people avoid Twitter at all costs. They avoid Tumblr
another
at all
one of our
costs.
friends just said they leave from Twitter today because I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about who it was later.
Okay.
But another one of our friends said, I can't do this anymore.
I can't do it.
It's terrible. I can't do it.
I occasionally tweet stuff. I know our videos, when we post them, they get posted out there. I interact a little bit. For the most part, I'm like, screw Twitter. I can't
do it, but I try not to do anything that's too political. I just like, you know, whatever.
The study was written by More in Common, an organization founded in memory of Joe Cox, the British MP who was murdered in the run-up to the Brexit referendum. It's based on a nationally representative poll with 8,000 respondents, 31-hour interviews, and 6 focus groups conducted from December 2017 to September 2018. Again, many people involved, much study involved
not just
over
one
the course of a year. Not just one person.
Studying tweets that may or may not be there and cannot be replicated.
That may or may not indicate that people who didn't like the last Star Wars movie are Nazis.
Did they use an algorithm to determine if they were Russian bots?
Right. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, check our videos. It's absolutely ridiculous. So this is an actual academic study. If you look at what Americans have to say on issues such as immigration, the extent of white privilege, and the prevalence of sexual harassment, the authors argue 7 distinct clusters emerge. Progressive activists, traditional liberals, that would be probably us. Passive liberals, we'd be in one of those groups. The politically disengaged moderates, we'd be that one too. Traditional conservatives and devoted conservatives. According to the report, 25% of Americans are traditional or devoted conservatives, and their views are far outside the American mainstream. So we're talking like the religious right. You know, that would probably constitute 25%. Some 8%. Okay. This is important. Some 8% of Americans are progressive activists, and their views are even less typical. Okay? So what they're basically saying is 8%, basically 8%, these progressive activist types, which seem to have infiltrated entertainment.
And that's talking about both sides? Or just on the left side?
On the left side.
Okay. But they're saying there's 25% people that are
activists, yeah,
that are
25% are
conservatives.
Right, I would say probably the
too.
religious right, or the very conservative. But there are only 8% of Americans who are progressive activists. The activist types that are, you know, like the Chuck Wendigs, like many of the people you're seeing in comics now, they only make up like 8% of actual America. So 8% of these people are making entertainment decisions for the other 92%.
Right. Well, that's obvious by what they've been choosing and stuff. Yes.
But by contrast, the 2/3 of Americans who don't belong to either extreme constitute the exhausted majority.
Amen.
Their members share a sense of fatigue with our polarized national conversation, a willingness to be flexible in their political viewpoints, and a lack of voice in the national conversation.
Yes.
Absolutely. Moderates, you don't hear from
Everybody
them.
hates you if you're moderate. Trust
Everybody,
me.
well, no, when you go to a place like Twitter, where it is
like a place like Twitter, everybody hates
polarized,
you.
okay? A normal person on Twitter will be completely hung out to dry. Because if you do not take a strong stance, usually left-leaning stance, if you are not a...
I would say it's mostly left. You get it sometimes from the right as well. I mean, we've had it too from the right. But I will be honest, most of the time it's left.
If you're not a progressive activist, because Twitter is considered a haven for progressive activists now, you are absolutely going to be lumped in with
some of the things they get mad about. I'm just like, what?
Yeah,
that's not even worth arguing about.
So I think what's going on, you know, this article goes on and on and on. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will put a link in the description. But basically what's going on is you have this echo chamber on Twitter, in comics, in gaming to some degree, in movies.
This is interesting, though. A full 80% believe that political correctness is a problem in our country.
Yes.
Even young people are uncomfortable with it, including 74% of ages 24 to 29 and 79% under the age of 24.
The woke are clear, on this particular issue, the woke are in a clear minority across all ages, which is true. If you actually go outside your damn door, okay, and you go in pretty much any major city, you go to any, you know, I'm not talking like they're like, oh, well, in rural areas. No, I'm talking even major metropolitan areas. These political activist types still constitute, maybe, except maybe Portland, but other than Portland, they still constitute a minority of people, and they are steering the direction of the entertainment ship, and it's costing these companies money. They're out there, you know, using, you know, and I've said before with, you know, in regards to comics, it's like these people are activists first and creators second.
Well, this is also interesting. Kind of goes on what I was saying. Whites are ever so slightly less likely than average to believe that political correctness is a problem in this country. 79% of them share this sentiment. Instead, it is Asians 82%, Hispanics 87%, and American Indians 88% who are most likely to oppose political correctness.
And here's one 40-year-old American Indian in Oklahoma said in his focus group, according to the report. This is what the Native American is saying in Oklahoma. It seems like every day you wake up and something's changed. You say Jew or Jewish.
Yes.
Is it black guy, African American? You're on your toes because you never know what to say. So political correctness is that sense of scary. And I think that's for everybody. I don't think
it is.
White people.
Well, no, but I'm just saying.
I'm
not saying that. They're saying that I think they're saying that white people are less likely, you know, to think it's a problem. Political correctness is a problem. But that's because that goes back to my example about the, you know, spice, pumpkin, everything, pumpkin spice, whatever. And everybody's making these jokes about, oh, it's the white woman season. And that's what I'm seeing, though. When you see these big groups of people that are like these you know, pushing for stuff in entertainment, it's usually white or light-skinned women constantly.
Yeah, and I want to point that this is interesting, too. You read and you find out who is the most woke. It's not the oppressed poor people. No. It's the rich white people. And they found it? Yeah. If age and race do not predict support for political correctness, what does? Income and education.
Oh, education. Surprise. Colleges told you that you have to be.
While 83% of respondents who make less than $50,000 dislike political correctness, just 70% of those who make more than $100,000 are skeptical about it. While 87% who have never attended college think that political correctness has grown to be a problem, only 66% of those with a postgraduate degree share that sentiment. Political tribe, as defined by the authors, is an even better predictor of views on political correctness among devoted conservatives. 97% believe that political correctness is a problem. Among traditional liberals, 61% do, yes. Progressive activists are the only group that strongly backs political correctness. Only 30% see it as a problem. So what does this group look like? Compared with the rest of the nationally represented polling sample, progressive activists are much more likely to be rich. Here, progressive activists.
And you should put women, too.
Yeah. Progressive activists are much more likely to be rich, highly educated, and white. Basically, the people that a lot of these people demonize are the ones who are like...
Well, I'm just saying, just from our Discord and from people I've talked to, a lot of these people that are POC or are, you know, different genders, different, you know, races, whatever, the ones that they're fighting for. Right. A lot of times they're upset because they feel like, one, they don't need someone fighting for them. Two, when they do fight for them, they almost make them like their pet they're trying to like get a treat for, or they're doing a really bad caricature or like a stereotype as their diversity. And it's like not even taking the time to make sure they're doing it in an actual
respectful,
way.
Accurate.
All they're trying to do is get their, because what they're doing, all they care about is their own personal issues, and they're trying to use that as a smokescreen for it.
I mean, from my personal opinion, it seems like it's a bunch of white people trying to score points with other woke white people about how trendy they are.
Or they think they're doing good by they're going to make sure they get diversity, but diversity by them is some stereotype or some, you know, talking point, and where it's actually might be more insulting to the people they're trying to supposedly be helping, or they're trying to push their own personal agenda. You know, oh, well, I'm a white woman, but I might be, you know, this religion, or I might be, you know, this sexual orientation, and it's usually pushing that agenda with, oh, but I'm going to smokescreen it by, but there's people of color. You know, I'm not joking. I'm serious.
Yeah. So they're nearly okay. So the rich, highly educated, and white folks, they're nearly twice as likely as the average to make more than $100,000 a year. They're nearly 3 times as likely to have a postgraduate degree. And while 12% of the overall sample in the study is African American, only 3% of progressive activists are.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
Only 3. You know what?
I'm not surprised.
Well, I'm just saying. You look at like Antifa, you know, activists, rally, whatever, and yeah, they're wearing the masks, but there's an awful lot of white skin
Oh, I still love when they were yelling at the black lady. And then, you know, about being a white supremacist, and she's like, I'm black.
Yeah, I know. We've got these progressive activist types are out there on Twitter, especially even in comic circles, accusing gay folks, black folks, Asian folks, women of being, you know.
No, they're not even. No. They're not. They're accusing them of all being white misogynists.
Yeah,
they don't even take the time to see who these people are. Because that takes too much effort. So instead of taking the time to see who people are, they just label them with misogynists, transphobe, you know, incel, white male incel. You know what I'm saying? They just they don't take the time. If they took the time, some people keep saying this. You'd see there's a big diversity. There's a bunch of diversity who are standing against you, but you don't take the time to see it. You're too busy blaming white men. Yep. Because that's what you're doing.
So I love it, though. Yeah, only 3% progressive activists are actually African American, with the exception of the small tribe of devoted conservatives. Progressive activists are the most racially homogenous group in the country.
That's what I'm saying. They keep yelling diversity, and then they throw these caricatures and stereotypes in as a smokescreen because they're trying to push their own agenda. They're trying to feel better about themselves. It's like you see those jokes with the rich ladies, and they always give at Christmas time. You know, not because they don't care the rest of the year, but they want to feel better about themselves at Christmas. That's what it reminds me of. It does.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's, you know, and this is pretty much, I mean, this is an academic study. This is on the Atlantic. This is coming from
it's coming from multiple people.
Yeah, a Harvard lecturer. Like, I'm sorry, you're gonna disagree with this guy.
Actually, he's just talking about the presentation that all these other researchers did.
Right.
So it's not one person, it's many people.
Yeah.
It's you know, they did study groups, they documented it, you can be replicable. Yep. You know, this actually is a study, unlike other papers we've read.
Yeah, now this is how we end it, and this is very, very true, I think. The gap between the progressive perception and the reality of public views on this issue could do damage to the institutions that the woke elite collectively run. A publication whose editors think they represent the views of a majority of Americans when they actually speak to a small minority of the country may eventually see its influence wane and its readership decline.
I think they're talking about something particular here.
Well, I think I
think they're noticing.
Yeah.
They're noticing there's definitely some kind of trend going on here. I don't think it's just comics. I think in general.
And a political candidate who believes she is speaking for half the population when she is actually voicing the opinions of 1/5 is likely to lose the next election. Oh, I think they're smacking down Hillary because she.
Well, here's my thing too. I think the reason Trump won and people were, why did he win? Why did he win? I think people are tired of it, and they just wanted like, okay, I'm gonna vote for him because I'm tired of hearing about it. You know.
And frankly, if this doesn't stop, he's gonna win again. I mean,
yeah, I'm sure of it.
It's because people are tired of it. In a democracy, it's difficult to win fellow citizens over to your own side or to build public support to remedy injustices that remain all too real when you fundamentally misunderstand how they see the world.
Right. That's what I keep saying.
Oh my God, this is brilliant.
That's what we keep saying.
This is what everybody's saying. This is why you're seeing people like, you know, Chuck Wendig, he was completely out of touch. Chelsea Kane, completely out of touch. You know, why you're seeing, and again, comics is a very, very small.
Well, not just that, but they block everyone who speaks at something they don't like, so you don't hear anything but your own voice echoing back. You're going to think, oh, everybody agrees with me. Yeah. Oh, everybody's agreeing with me. Look, everybody's agreeing with me, but you're not really getting the whole picture because you blocked everybody who would disagree with you. So I'm just saying.
So this is why, you know, and again, speaking to the bigger issue, and again, we're just talking about like comics and entertainment in general. This is why these progressive creators who are activists first and creators second are not resonating with the size of an audience they need to resonate with. Why you're not seeing the numbers, because they're speaking to like-minded people.
And guess what? Last Jedi failed.
Right, they're creating for like-minded people. And so, okay, so Last Jedi...
It didn't fail, technically. It just went off a cliff after the first weekend.
Well, no, because I think they were creating a movie. Rian Johnson was creating a movie for other people like himself, woke people like himself, who happen to be critics. Okay,
it could have worked if it had been done well, but it was clearly just shoving an agenda down people's throats. And you can tell a good story and still get your point across. And there's a disconnect there for whatever reason. But it was funny because I was talking to you about this earlier today when we've mentioned before, when we went to see Avengers. When we were in the theater, they had a commercial on there about the DVD coming out for The Last Jedi and about Solo coming out. And people, we're talking like the whole theater's full of college kids because it was a college town. There was only a couple people that weren't college age in that theater. Almost everybody, almost everybody was college.
There's like one other family, I think.
Yeah, almost everybody else was college. Was college kids.
Town.
And I cannot tell you how many people around us, when they ran the trailer, said, "I'm not buying that DVD. That movie was terrible. I hated it. I'm not. If I can get it free off the internet, I'll get it. I'm not paying for it, and I'm not going to go see that Solo thing either because the last movie sucked."
Yeah, they were literally.
I mean, we're college people.
We're not making this up. Packed
boys
theater.
And girls.
And we, and then some people were like, "Oh, I'm going to take a bathroom break because I'm not watching a Solo trailer." And they got up, and that very same theater is one we were in for Solo, and it was virtually empty. Yeah. Now it was packed opening night for Avengers.
There's no seats.
There were no seats. It was completely like, I mean, if they could like stand people up in the aisles, they would have done. It was completely sold out. Solo, there was like 4 or 5 other people in the theater with us on opening night. It was bad.
Well, Last Jedi, it was full too.
Yeah, Last Jedi
and then
was full.
Solo, nobody.
There was groaning during Last Jedi.
There was people like people were not happy they got it. But then the story they spin is, everybody loved it.
Nah.
It made so much money. Yeah, it kind of went off a cliff after because people just went to it not expecting that it was going to be that, and so they gave it their money, and then they're like, I'm not going to give any more money to it, and it's going to suck. But then we're like, well, maybe it's just us. Maybe we're being too harsh on it. And we went to the theater, and these people that are these college kids that were their, really their target demographic, the ones they keep saying are supposed to be like the woke people. They hated it too.
So really, I think what this boils down to, and I think what Disney is starting to realize, Disney wants to make money. I think what they're realizing,
everything came in under.
Right, and they're realizing that. You can't have 8% of people making entertainment for 8% of the population and leave the other 92% out in the cold, and that's what's going on. They think it's a 50-50 split. It's not a 50-50 split. Like I said, you'd be hard-pressed, even in any city, other than Portland, to walk down the street and find these types of people that you find on Twitter. They're constantly just beating that drum. They just have very large megaphones because a lot of them, they might have a lot of followers, or they have a platform. They're working on a high-profile project.
That's not to say you can't have opinions on things. That's not to say that you can't, have some things that you're passionate about in your work. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is you have to understand when you make these works that not everybody's going to agree with you, and that you have to understand that when you represent somebody else, you cannot just say what you want to say. You can't tell people to eat like a boot covered in shit. You can't do that. I get wanting to defend yourself. I've been there, but you can't say certain things. And that's why I say don't talk politics, don't talk religion.
If you flipped it the other way, and you had people out there constantly evangelizing, going to work and evangelizing to every customer that came through the door and calling them a bunch of sinners and whatever, they would be terminated. I mean, it's just, maybe not Chick-fil-A, but pretty much everywhere else.
Chick-fil-A's not that bad.
You would be terminated.
Chick-fil-A does really well because they have amazing customer service.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I'm just saying, like, you probably, and they have good sandwiches too. But yeah, you'd probably be fired. You'd probably be fired. I mean, and I've known people like that. I've known people that were like dragging their personal beliefs, into a customer service type situation. And
it's like, my computer's not working. Well, did you pray over it first?
My God, I've known people like that.
For real?
Yes. But no, I've known people like that. I've known people like that they've actually were like, yeah, I have to pray, everything. And I'm like, oh my God, no pun intended. But I'm just like, come on. So what's going on here? Well, I think we're finally starting to wake up to the fact that if you want to make money, you have to appeal to more than 8%.
I just thought this was funny.
America.
Go back to the boycott thing. It's gonna be funny. I'm gonna call for a boycott. That's already happening, and the boycotts people are already boycotting Star Wars. So I'm gonna call for a boycott, and then what's gonna happen is when people are already boycotting it because they were mad about other things. Look, our boycott succeeded.
Yeah, Star Wars. I didn't. God, you're smarter than I am. You're more.
You're gonna claim victory.
Yeah, dude, the Star Wars boycott's been going on for like freaking 6 months, 8 months now. Where the hell have you been?
But now they're gonna call for a boycott,
claim it,
and they're gonna be like, look, our boycott's working, and it's like. No, and they're gonna claim victory for a boycott that they didn't. But it's okay. Their boycott's okay, but everybody else's boycott's not. Yeah. But their boycott's gonna be effective when everybody else is just a bunch of straight white guys living in their mom's basement, and they aren't real people.
Yeah,
It's all
so
sock puppet accounts and Russian bots.
I think you're gonna see
Star Wars.
Yeah, they're all Russian bots. So I think you're gonna see more of this. I mean, again, I'm not like out there calling for people's heads or anything, but I think you're just gonna see, at least on Disney's end, you're gonna see Disney, the Purge.
They're gonna look. They're gonna look and see.
They have to. They're losing money. Marvel Comics, I guarantee, is losing money. You don't know because they bury the way Marvel Comics is organized. It's buried in with the rest of Disney publishing. You don't know what Marvel's actually making, but those numbers aren't good. I mean, they're not good.
No, and I mean, I will give them credit for like being like, don't punish everybody else because of my behavior, but I also think that's kind of like a deflection or a, look, I'm better than you think I am.
Look how
kind
nice
of
I am.
Because I noticed in other tweets aren't here that he was mentioning this person, that person, and the injustices they've suffered.
Well, he's trying to sick everybody on his editor.
Basically, he's trying to like be like, you know, feel bad for for me and these people, and you know, it's a deflection tactic to try to get people to still side with him. I said bad things, and I've done bad things. I deserve what I get, but other people don't. So, F the right and F Comicsgate anyway, even though I...
and I don't think... I mean, I'll be honest. I think... if you want to call consumer backlash Comicsgate...
That's what they're doing. There's a difference.
Right. If you want to call, everyday people who don't even know what the hell's going on, just, they're not buying your books anymore... because they see your online behavior.
They don't even know there is a Comicsgate.
No, and that's going on. I mean, comic shops are closing not because of Comicsgate. They're closing because people just aren't buying new books anymore. Because that other 92%, you've got 8% of people creating. Most of the creators in this 8% creating entertainment for the other 92% who. A lot of them don't want to buy it.
Right.
They don't want to buy it, and the sales are dropping.
Then they automatically label them Comicsgate, even though they have no idea what that is. And I mean, I guess if you look, Comicsgate is standing for the consumer and for just wanting things that aren't politically charged all the time. That's most people, whether they know they're Comicsgate or not.
Yeah.
I mean, that is.
Yeah. I mean, if he thinks it's like a core group of people going after him to get him fired, I don't think that happened. I think Disney is just taking a good hard look at people's social media presences.
They probably got their numbers in. They weren't where they thought they should be. Then they're like, maybe there's some truth to what we're hearing, and they went and looked at it. Yeah, I mean, that's probably more likely what happened.
Yeah, look at the timing. It comes, this is the same time that Axel Alonso got fired last year after complaints, after sales drop. I do not think... They don't
care about complaints. They care about the money.
The money.
If the money is gone, that's when they'll do something.
You gotta put your money where your mouth is. Or
Any business,
right?
Not just Disney. People complain. You do what you can to appease people. Sometimes you can't appease people. This is the way it is. But if you're losing money and it's actually starting to notice marked trends and actual, you can track it back to certain things, they're going to act upon it.
Right, or they're going to just take a precautionary measure. If a lot of people are complaining that your sales are down because your freelancers are out there shooting their mouths off, you're going to look at the freelancers. They probably
telling people about eating babies and licking boots covered in shit. You'll probably be like, oh my god.
I can almost guarantee you that Disney probably sicked a bunch of interns on combing through Marvel and Lucasfilms, especially after the James Gunn fiasco, especially after Roseanne. They probably got people out there watching their social media presences now because they do not want another high profile. I mean, comics is like small potatoes compared to TV and movies, but it still affects the bottom line.
Right.
And I think what they're afraid of with Star Wars being the brand is like Star Wars can't afford to be damaged anymore. I mean, Disney has a lot riding on Star Wars. They cannot afford to have the brand damaged anymore. They can't afford guys like Chuck Wendig to go out there regardless of how his books are selling.
He's just one of many right now. He's one of many. I mean, I'm not going to blame it all on him because he's just one of many. Yeah. And I think it's got this idea in their head that they were above it. Like they could say whatever and it would be fine. And I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're extreme right. You can't just say whatever sometimes. You just can't say that. If you're working for a company like this, you cannot.
If you're working by that's
if it's your own personal thing, well, you can say whatever you want.
You can say whatever you want to, and I think that's people are like, well, freedom of speech doesn't absolve you from freedom of consequences. And that is true.
Yeah, that's what I always say.
But that's very true in a workplace setting too. If you're working for a company, you're representing the company, or trying to make the company money, spouting off on Twitter is not a good idea. There have been so many people that have been fired over Twitter. Watch what you say. I mean, how hard is that? It's not anybody trying to keep you down. Just like, you want to have a private conversation with somebody on your own time and mouth off to them. You can. But...
And I think these big companies are all with these IPs think, well, there's such a big fan base. Everybody's going to just love it and eat it up, whatever we give them. So it doesn't matter. And I think they're starting to learn that that's not the case either. You got to stay true to
Yeah.
the IP, and you know they're not in some cases. I mean, yes, Star Wars is always a more progressive brand. That is true. But it went from like, okay, we're progressive a little bit to what the hell happened, you know?
Yeah, it's a point where they just alienated, you know, a large portion of their fan base.
Oh,
And it wasn't
that
just
isn't real. They alienated
Yeah.
a lot of sock puppet accounts and Russian bots.
Right, the Russian bots.
But that
made the Russian
somehow
bots
their
better.
money dropped like considerably. But it's all Russian bots and sock puppets.
And
You
these
spend a lot of money. You know?
people don't see it. That's what I don't. And they're always blaming the boogeyman, Comicsgate, or the Russian bots, or the, you know,
It can't be me.
you
It
know,
can't be my
4chan,
behavior.
or you know, all these like mysterious entities. It can't possibly be that, you know, 10 years ago, people would not be out there saying these kinds of things that Chuck Wendig is saying in public. And keeping their jobs. It doesn't matter where you work. It doesn't matter if you work in comics or work for freaking Walmart or McDonald's. You can't,
Right.
you know, say these things without consequence. So
I agree.
Sorry, Chuck, you're gonna have
yeah.
to find another job someplace else. Not anywhere near the Walt
That was
Disney
my
Company.
expression pretty much when I saw those tweets. I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah, so
Pretty much look like that. My face. Going like that. Sorry.
there is a joke in there somewhere.
I'm not. No. Okay, I'm not talking anymore.
Not going there. All right, we're gonna wrap this
Anyway,
one up.
I
We're
don't
done.
mean to say bad things.
Are we?
It comes out.
Are we done with this one?
Yes.
Okay, so we're
Stick
gonna
a fork in it.
Yeah, we're going to wrap this one up. This has been Clownfish TV. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, rants, gaming videos, art videos. We're going to be ramping up the art videos here in a couple of weeks. Check out our Patreon. We just started a Patreon last week, and we haven't really pushed it too hard, but definitely would help us make more content. And anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay, you're good. Okay, guys, we're going to go.
Okay, bye.
Bye.